Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Jay Hill, with Studio 6 Paranormal Productions and Podcasts now. Um, I had opted to change the name from Entertainment. I'm still working on changing some things here and there, especially since I now am on audio. So you can find my show on every podcast platform that does audio. So yeah, some things have been changing. It's been a little bit difficult, but I'm getting it down now. So, but today I do have a fantastic show. Emily Waterson is with me today, and we're going to talk about her life in paranormal and her family, and just get to it. And let's see if I can get her. And there she is. Welcome, Emily.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm not too bad. Actually, it's a little rainy outside. It was nice 80 degrees yesterday, but now it's really kind of chilly, and I'm not liking this. I want my summer back. 90-degree weather. I'm happy. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you.
yeah. So, first off, I wanted to get into a little bit about. We became friends probably about 6 months ago, and I've seen some of your posts on some of your investigations, and you really seem to enjoy doing what you do with the paranormal. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started with that? And it's kind of a simple question, but it's my viewers like to know where my guests come from. So if you could give me a little bit of a rundown of how you got into the paranormal and just how it's influenced and changed your life.
Okay, yeah. So the paranormal has interested me from a very young age. I think it was my first experience of seeing a full-bodied apparition that sort of really got me interested and wanting to know more about it.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I was around 13 years old, and I saw my grandmother at the bottom of my bed.
Oh, wow.
She'd passed away a few weeks previously. And I think seeing that and feeling the love and the warmth that I felt from seeing her made me want to know how, why, and how could this be possible. So I started to look into the paranormal, into what spirits were, how we can communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously years went by, I had children, finding time to do things with, I have 5 children, so finding time to
Oh, wow.
do things is quite difficult. So it was all put on hold. It was an interest, but not something I followed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just a few years ago that I decided to progress with mediumship and the actually going on investigations myself.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I just realized that you were starting your mediumship, and you are getting more into that now. Have you had time? You said you had 5 kids?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So congratulations on your children. That's a large family. So how is it that you kind of manage some of the things that you do in the paranormal with your family? I'm sure it can be difficult.
Yes, I have a very supportive husband who supports me in everything I do and looks after the children when I go away. At weekends when I do investigations. Also, my mum is a big help. She lives locally to me, so I've got a lot of family around me that will support me in what I do.
Oh, wow.
Really
wow. Nice. So tell me a little bit about your first really true experience, like your first investigation that you went on. How long ago was that?
My first investigation was probably not that long ago. When you look at the sort of perspective of it, it's probably about a year and a half ago now.
Okay.
But I think since then I've pretty much been out every weekend, so
I've
built up a big repertoire of investigations.
Right. Once you get addicted to that, I mean, once you get into that whole aspect of, oh yeah, paranormal investigations are so much fun. I mean, but also it's just the fact that, and especially being a medium, you tend to look at things in a different way and experience things in a different way. Somebody who, let's say, isn't on that track of being gifted. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're kind of, it's a whole different spectrum. And being gifted like that, as myself, it makes things more interesting
Yes,
to
definitely.
say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, do you have a team that you go with then, or do you do it by yourself, or?
I work with various teams, so I like to go and work with different teams, meet different people, see how different teams work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I love about um, doing the paranormal investigations. It's meeting the new people and just seeing how other people work.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole thing for me too. Is I like to meet other people, and I do sometimes I do virtual walkthroughs, mediumship walkthroughs for paranormal teams when they do their live or something like that, kind of just to give them that extra help, and it's been interesting to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So now with you and your family, how old are your kids? Let's go that way.
They are 6, 7, 8, 13, and 19.
Oh, okay. So you have a large spectrum of of ages for kids. How
Yes.
does your oldest feel about what you do?
She doesn't believe in anything sort of spiritual or paranormal. So
Mhm.
she's a non-believer, and she sort of keeps out of it. Uh,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
next daughter down, the 13-year-old, she's very much the same as me. So she does come out with me on investigations. So we work together quite a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's cool. It's kind of nice to be able to have a family member or two or three or five that want to be able to kind of contribute or to be a part of something that is a passion for you.
Yes.
Um, how does how does your family feel about you being a medium and experiencing these things? When did you come to terms with that? When did you realize this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do, and I just, people will accept me or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it was only a couple of years ago that I did sort of come to terms with it and realised what I could do.
Mhm.
Uh, the majority of my family, especially my immediate family, are very supportive. They understand, and yeah, they're very accepting of it. There are some members of my family that are sort of not so sort of that they think, oh, it's rubbish.
Yeah. I actually have that too myself,
Yeah,
so I can totally relate to that.
yeah,
Um, but for me, it was more of a acceptance and realizing that I had to come over that fear of what people would think or say to me or something like that. So I'm sure that you probably experienced that similar route.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So um, has it gotten easier as time goes on? I mean, with people accepting who you are in that sense.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I mean, most of my friends are friends sort of from the paranormal world anyway. So,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
and those that are not from the paranormal world do accept what I
That's
do.
cool. Yeah, I've noticed that there's quite a few people even where I work. I mean, there's quite a few people who don't know who I am, and then when they do know, they're like, "Oh, it's really cool." And there's other ones that kind of just take it with a grain of salt, which there's a lot of different people out there, a lot of different collective people out there that will accept or will not accept. But for the most part, I think mediumship as a whole, I think a lot more people are coming around to being accepting of that, especially
Yeah,
for everything that's been happening in the world as of late, and you know they're kind of looking for
yeah,
that
definitely.
help, that assistance. You know what I mean? That now, have you had somebody come to you and ask for readings, or have they come to you and said, "Hey, I could use some information"?
Yes, I have quite a few people contact me to ask for readings, but I don't do private readings. So I just, at the moment, I use my mediumship for my investigations, and
Hmm.
that's how I like to use it at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Have you experienced like if you do readings for people, like you said that you don't do private readings, is it something that you're looking to get into, or is it something that you just not going to do it?
I may possibly in the future. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it is a confidence thing. I think because I think if you're contacting spirit for somebody, I think it's so important, and it's got to be so perfect, and
Right, right,
it could affect them. It could affect their life. So to me,
right,
it's a
right.
thing to do.
Right. It's that responsibility,
Yeah,
comes with it, having a great gift like that comes with great responsibility,
yeah,
and I'm sure that, that you really want to be able to be as accurate as you can,
yes,
and there's a lot of people out there that I think that just kind of miss that mark, and I think that they're afraid to kind of take that step and trust themselves. And
yes,
that's a big issue. I mean, there's a lot of different mediums out there and a lot of different psychics, and I think that there's ones out there that just can't seem to get past that confidence aspect of it,
yeah,
and because it's a big pill to swallow, I mean, once you realize that, I mean, I'm sure there's people listening and watching now that realize that, they were at one point wondering how they were going to do it, and then now they're kind of like thrown into this, and they want to do it, but they're kind of afraid as the confidence isn't there. But
yeah,
I tell everybody, you know, um, believe in what you're doing, believe in your dream, believe in that who you are, that there's a reason why you are who you are, and that acceptance will grow, and it will come as in time. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that today. And
yeah,
yeah, so that's why I love talking with mediums. I love talking with people like you, and experiencing, and so people can experience other different sides of the paranormal as well as the mediumship side and this and that. So let me ask you, um, was there a time where you had done an investigation that really kind of threw you for a loop?
Yes, I think quite recently we went to a place called Hinchinbrook House in Huntingdonshire,
Okay.
and that was an experience. That was sort of the biggest experience I've had regarding mediumship.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was pushed by
Oh.
spirit,
Oh.
and I've never been pushed before. I've connected, communicated.
Mhm.
I've seen, I've heard. I have had gentle touches, very gentle touches on my shoulder and things like that.
Mhm.
But this particular time, I'd sort of connected to a female spirit up in one of the bedrooms in the house. And then later on, downstairs in the library, I came into contact with this very, very angry male. And he was coming closer, and I could feel his energy coming closer to me. And I was sort of asking him to step back. And then my team asked me to step back up to the other end of the room, away from this energy. And as I went to step away, it was as though someone had run at me and pushed me in the back, and I was pushed over onto the floor.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that was
So
quite
you weren't just pushed, you were pushed.
yeah, properly.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced similar things, but I was in a restaurant, and I felt it. That was crazy. But um, for everybody who's just turning in, I have Emily Waterson here with us, paranormal investigator and medium. Um, so talk a little bit about how long are your investigations, like when you go with people? How long do they usually stay out? Is it like an all night thing, or is it?
that usually the average is around 6 hours.
Okay.
But then we do some that are a lot longer. They'll be sort of sleepover, so we'll stay at the venue overnight. Not that we sleep much.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste any time, so I
Right.
to sort of stay up. So
Right.
we recently did a whole weekend at a castle in Gloucestershire,
Mhm.
uh, and yeah, I didn't get much sleep for the 2 nights because I just didn't want to waste time. So
Right. 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 Now, speaking of castles, I love castles. I have distant relatives from Scotland, and I love the Scottish castles. I love all castles, but I have yet to been to one. I have yet to been over in Europe, and I would love to investigate or just do a walkthrough of a castle. Now, where you're at, um, what would you say would be one of the most notable or most haunted ones that either you want to go to or that you've been to?
Okay, so I would say the most notable haunted castle that everybody wants to go to that I haven't been to is Chillingham Castle.
Okay.
Sort of Northumbria, sort of towards Scotland, but not
Mhm.
quite as far as Scotland.
Mhm.
Uh, that has a very, very haunted history, and almost everybody wants to go there. But I am planning to go there later in the year,
Oh,
but
awesome.
not yet been. So.
Yeah. Now, do you have any stories of that place? I mean, could you? There's there something that you could share with my listeners?
No, not with Chillingham Castle. No, I do try not to look too much into the haunted history of somewhere before I go.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Right.
normal history. It's quite important to know the history of the place.
Right.
But the
But
haunted,
kind of, yeah, just kind of leave it at that. Especially for me too. I like to go to places that I don't really know anything about.
yeah,
And most of some of the notable ones, people tell stories and secondhand accounts and this and that. But even then, I'm kind of like you like that. I don't want to know. I don't want to have anything influence me in any way.
yeah,
But it's just, and there are some great ghost stories. I mean, everybody loves a ghost story. So,
yeah.
I mean, could you tell one that you've been to, a castle or someplace that's been really haunted, that you could tell a story that has been known to happen at this place?
Yeah, there's a castle actually in Scotland where I was married.
Okay.
It's called Comlongan Castle.
Mhm.
And it's not far from a town called Annan in Dumfries and Galloway.
Okay.
A stunning castle, really beautiful. The atmosphere is really, really
Yeah.
yeah, it's very nice there. I haven't investigated there, but as I said, I got married there. But
Mhm.
there is a story there about a lady. Her name was Lady Carruthers.
Okay.
And she was being forced to marry someone from another family to marry into money. And she wasn't happy about that. So she threw herself off the roof of the castle.
Oh wow.
And then her body is supposed to be buried. All separate parts of her body are supposed to be buried in the grounds of the castle. And she haunts that castle.
Oh wow.
So that's quite
Yeah, that would be something else. And it kind of seems too that, I mean, even in the U.S., I mean, we've got like not so many like castles that I know of, but I mean, when you talk about entities or stories of people who have had arranged marriages or failed marriages or failed something, and it's when they some of these spirits that have taken their lives or die somehow. I mean, it's a love base. I mean, it's all about it's just this traumatic. This person left me, or this person, I was forced to marry this person, or it's just it kind of seems the running gamut of that whole storyline. I mean, we have hotels here in the U.S. that talk about women who have gotten pregnant from somebody that was already getting married, that was already married, and this and that, and the whole story of them, and they kill themselves or they hang themselves, and it's like that person haunts this room, and you see a lot of those, and I think a lot of traumatic death, especially even like suicides. I mean, you see a lot of those stories that of the hauntings of all these places.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine, being in like around like London or even in Europe in general. I mean, there's so many different stories that come out of there that are just fascinating, and they're just you can't really go through all of them. There's so many of them, and
Yes.
I've had some friends that have gone over there and investigated, and it's just plentiful. It's like pick and choose. I mean,
Yes.
there's every place, and
Yeah.
so yeah, the history alone. I mean, and that's another thing I wanted to ask you too is, how are you with all the history, and is that something that really interests you, or is it something that you kind of a passion along with being a medium and being an investigator? Is that something that you really strive to get, to learn more about? Is the history of aspect of the investigating and mediumship?
Yeah, I mean, I love history. I've always loved history. It was my favourite subject at school.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
it's something I like to teach my children as well. I think history is very important, and it's sort of underestimated. I don't think it's taught so much now as it should be, because I
Mhm.
think it's
Mhm.
an important part of who we are and where we come from.
Oh, I agree.
So I love to go out to a lot of historical places with my family,
Mhm.
to look around and learn the history, learn about the kings and queens, and and the different eras that we've lived, we've lived through. And yeah, I love history. It's
Right.
fascinating.
Right. So, being a medium, I'm gonna kind of not really put you on the spot, but maybe kind of put you on the spot. Um, there are some like castles, like of the royal family and this and that. Do you feel that with that history alone that there have been rumors or talk of hauntings with the royal family?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there must be many stories. So we've got Windsor Castle, Edinburgh Castle.
Hmm.
They've got some of the houses, that sort of Sandringham House, and you've obviously got Buckingham Palace. And I can't pinpoint any stories, but I'm sure I've heard
Right,
many
right, right.
things.
Yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
it's just that would just be to be a fly on the wall. I mean, in one of those places that that would the history alone,
yeah,
just to learn that. And actually, one of my very distant relatives in Scotland actually was kind of like, I don't know what you would call him. It's kind of like, I use this reference because this is the only way I can use it. Like the sheriff of Nottingham. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. Okay.
yeah,
My one of my descendants guarded the king,
huh?
um, King Henry. Was it Henry? Was it? It's Queen Mary of Scots' son.
Right, okay,
Is that Henry?
think so.
Okay. Okay.
Without,
Yeah. He was like after she had passed, and then he was gosh, I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I found that on a ancestry thing, and it was just
right,
I read the whole article, and it was just really cool to see that. And when you talk about like Edinburgh, that is one place that I would love to visit. Have you visited Edinburgh?
I have
Okay.
years ago, about 19 years ago. So I've not been there sort of since I've been doing mediumship or investigations, but I would love to go there.
That can you imagine? Can you imagine the things that you would sense and feel? I mean, just going in there and having your gifts open like that, it would just be like I'd be like a kid in a candy store. I
Yeah,
mean, I would just be like, oh my gosh. And the history alone of the deceptions and the murders and the
yeah,
whole nine yards, it'd just be that would kind of to me be like here where we would have like the insane asylums type thing. I mean,
yeah,
it would just be so overwhelming.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, that's why I haven't frequented any insane asylums or any asylums, just because of the simple fact that it's just energy and overload. It's so
yes.
much. Have you experienced any of that? Any place where you're just like, this is too much?
I think possibly the one I was telling you about where I was pushed. The energy there was that night. I'd been there previously
Mhm.
twice, but the energy hadn't felt so bad. But this
Mhm.
particular time, it was like an energy overload, and then I just ended up collapsing on the floor through. I was just like psychically drained. I just fell back down on the
Right.
floor.
Right. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, some of that I've experienced certain things being in some place where you ever go into a place and you kind of feel like beside yourself as soon as you go inside. It's kind of like you almost have to like you're like separate. It's like there's two of you. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just this weird feeling. And I
yeah,
always thought when I was growing up that was just me being odd, but realizing talking with other mediums that yes, that is an actual thing where you could like you step outside of yourself and then
yeah,
at that moment you kind of have to reconnect and it's like wow, that's a
yeah, yeah,
I experienced that a lot when I was growing up. I would go into a friend's house and then I would feel like this like beside myself literally. So that's not just a saying,
yeah,
When people say, "Yeah, I feel beside myself," but literally you do.
yeah, literally.
And
Yeah,
so but now um you say your friends are know of you and support you. So
yeah.
have you ever had them say, "Give me a reading"?
Yes, I have. Yeah, but
Okay.
again, I tend not to. I will do healing on them, spiritual healing.
Yep.
I'll do that for them.
Right,
Uh,
right.
Readings, I tend not to, especially if I know them, because again, I feel
Right. Yeah,
convinced about a lot about them. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I tend.
I kind of feel the same way. I've had friends that, want a reading and this and that. And it's like that's why I don't read family. Is
Yeah,
because I know too much. I know there's too many. If I didn't know you, then it's easier because the fact that you feel that all that information that you're getting is
yeah,
genuine. You know,
yes, yeah,
And not to say that I wouldn't. I mean, if Spirit basically said if it was, an original, something different that I didn't know or something that that person could validate, and
yeah,
that's one thing,
yeah.
but yeah.
Mm.
So, so let me ask you, what do you do when you're not investigating, you're not taking care of your family? Are you working?
No, I home educate the children, so I
Oh, okay. All
with
right.
them every day.
That's awesome. So that's alone got to be a full-time job. I mean, that's just with five children, and you have what three in school?
Yeah, 4 would be in
Four.
school.
Okay.
Left.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you find that when you started doing that, is that something that came natural for you, or is it something that was difficult, or did you just kind of this is what I got to do?
Yeah, I mainly did it for health reasons. For my one of my children, my daughter is type 1 diabetic,
Okay.
uh, so I felt that her care was vitally important, and I should be responsible for that.
Mhm.
So my eldest daughter, she has autism. So
Okay.
again, it was important for me to make sure that her mental health was taken care of properly.
And you were there. Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 smaller ones, I've just home educated them because I believe that if I was home educating the other 2, it just made sense to keep them all together.
Right. Oh, that's awesome that you do that. I mean, nowadays I think there's a lot more people that are getting into um,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
home education. I just think that they really want to be able to take charge of their education, and
yeah,
and I think that that's a good thing.
yeah.
So um, let's talk about. Do you watch any paranormal shows?
To be honest, no, not
Okay.
many. Um,
Okay.
One reason being the children always have the television on with their programs on,
Right.
and I don't have much time to sit down to watch TV.
Mhm.
Yeah, either sort of sorting the kids out, doing family things, and then it's nice to sort of spend some time without the television on, and
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I tend not to watch much of anything on TV, to be honest.
Right. Um, Now, do you when you're investigating and I wanted to ask you before I almost forgot. Do you have equipment that you use
Yes,
or okay?
yeah, yeah. I
What
do have.
you do have?
Yeah, I have quite a lot of equipment that I use. Sometimes I choose not to open up to spirit, and I'll just use equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if I'm working for other teams, there's a couple of teams I work for that I lead groups for.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I won't open up, and I'll lead the groups. So I'll be assisting them and showing them how equipment works, and trying to sort of get communication using equipment, so that
Mm-hmm.
the other people are sort of enjoying their evening and getting something out of it.
Right. Do the people that you go out with, would they prefer you use your gifts, or would they rather, or some of them say, yeah, no, you're okay with using, your equipment or whatever, we're using our equipment. Have you found what the difference is? I mean, do you have like an even amount of responses or even amount of information when using the equipment they have or you have compared to your gifts?
Yeah, I think it's probably equal. So last night we were on an investigation, and it was with it was a big place. It was an old school museum.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 3 groups of us. There were 7 of us in each group. And quite often we'll split it up. So we'll have a medium in each group, and then we'll have someone that's interested in the EVPs in each group, someone that's interested in using apps. But this time we kept the mediums together, and
Mm-hmm.
the people interested in like EVPs and recordings together, and then the people that wanted like the noisy equipment together.
Oh.
That worked really well, because the power of all the mediums together was
Mm-hmm.
really good, really strong, and we came up with some really interesting stuff.
That was my next question. How do you feel about being around or being in a collective of more mediums in a paranormal investigation? Do you find that to be better, or do you find that to be it's too much?
No, I find it better. I love it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love to sort of blend with another medium, or just I feel the energy from them, and I feel I work better when I'm around other mediums.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
seems to sort of just give me more energy. And
Right. The collective, the energy
yeah,
that is kind of like, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
now, have you ever? There's a lot. I would say there's a lot of people claiming to be mediums, and a lot of them are doing it for the wrong reasons.
yeah,
And um, I think that the collective, the mediums that are doing what they need to do because of the fact that they want to help people, they want to do this, and But do you think that there is just as many of these people that are doing it just for financial reasons and not for helping people? Do you think that there's an even amount, or do you think that there's more people helping instead of, you know what I mean?
well, I'd like to think there was more people helping.
Right. Have you ran into anybody that was suspect?
No,
Okay.
not yet. No.
Okay.
But I find
I have, and
okay.
it's interesting. Let's just say that it's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
yeah.
quite sad. I feel very sad that someone would sort of have that gift, but then sort of exaggerate on it to make it more sort of theatrical or more interesting to people. And yeah,
Right.
that's
Right.
quite sad. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I have a saying of, be good, do good, and be genuine.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can't stress that enough with a lot of the people, in the paranormal field, because there's so much drama and so much of everything going on in the paranormal field right now that
Yeah.
I just, I sometimes I have to turn it off. I mean, I have to, not go on Facebook or, whatever, just because of the fact that there's so much of it.
Yeah.
And it creates that negative energy, and especially when you're just seeing it or reading it, you're kind of being drawn into that whole drama yourself, even if you're not interacting with it, but just reading it and taking it internally,
Yeah.
visually, and seeing all this stuff. It's just not healthy,
No,
and
I agree.
and I have some friends, some very good friends, who think the same way, that this
Yeah.
drama and this whole thing with who's better with this or who's better with
Yeah.
that, and it's just people don't realize that we're all just trying to find answers.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to find the truth, and we're
Yes.
trying to find the proof. And I don't think that there is anybody that is better than anybody else in that aspect.
No, absolutely not. No, there
Right.
are no investigators and no mediums better than any other. Everybody
Right.
works everybody knows something different,
Mhm.
learning all the time. And I think when it comes to paranormal and mediumship, everybody, I believe, is equal, and
Mhm.
we should all be able to work together. And like you say, we all want the same thing. We're all looking for the
Right.
same thing.
Mhm.
So we should work together,
Right.
and lose the egos and just enjoy what we do,
Right.
and
Right.
just blend together and work together.
Right. Right. The egos is what gets me. I just can't even fathom some of the things that I've seen, and it's just
Mm.
like, gosh, really?
Yeah.
So, but having said that, with the egos and no, nobody be better. Yeah,
Yeah.
in some aspects, everybody there's people that are in the paranormal field and individuals that may know something that others do not, which is
Exactly.
good. You know what I mean? And they could share that information.
Yeah.
But with mediums, sometimes with some of the people doing mediumship, and I'm not calling out any mediums at all or anybody claiming to be mediums. I'm just saying, in as a whole, and
Yeah.
some of the areas of mediumships, that mediumship messages and this and that from different people, they just your intention is everything.
Yeah.
As long as your intention is true and good and
Yeah.
genuine,
Yeah.
then yeah, trusting spirit. But it's just, I've never looked at it as in, I'm gonna make money doing this.
No,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
I just I can't say that I haven't charged, because I do charge, but
Mm.
I do it on a basis of, if I'm led to do so.
Yes.
I don't market myself. I'm not, I don't have a website. I don't, maybe eventually, but I'm just not, that's not my intention.
Yeah.
I don't do it to make money
No.
in that sense. You know what I mean? Even
No.
if I was broke, that's not the reason why I would do it. It would just be basically your intention of helping people,
Yeah.
and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and being a paranormal investigator as well is the fact that, I haven't done too many. I don't really do them anymore. Any like home investigations? Have you done any home investigations?
Yeah. I've done a couple of private house investigations.
Okay,
Yeah. Quite interesting. Yeah.
right. And I think that I don't really do it anymore, just because of the fact that I just kind of, the show's taken over and this and that. But
Yeah.
I've done it before, but compared to a building or a business or something like that, when you get into a home investigation, that's a whole different world.
It
I
is
mean, I
absolutely.
mean, can you talk a little bit about any experiences you've had with some of the private homes?
Yeah, there's a private home I investigate, not too far from where I live, um, and it's an old 14th century coaching inn. No, 12th. I think part of it is 12th century, so it's very old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a man lives there with his family, and his children are grown up, and his grandchildren come to visit him. And that is it's a stunning home. He lets us go in and talk to his spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and we only have good experiences there. It's a happy home, and there's happy spirits,
Mm-hmm.
and quite often I'm affected with laughter when I'm there. There's lots of happiness there, and it's a really nice. It's nice to go to a private home, someone's home, rather
Right.
than a museum or a castle.
Right. Right. It's nice to be invited, and it's nice to be able to, you know, be able to help somebody. And that's what when I used to do like home investigations or whatnot, it was all about helping.
Yes, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, have you ever experienced, like, being a medium, have you ever connected with spirit while you're like talking to somebody on the phone, like via text or something like that?
I do get random things coming through, but I
You're
try,
reluctant.
yeah, to give it, and I do try and not open up
Mhm. Mhm.
unless I am working. So
Right. Right.
I do try and keep my aura small and keep closed down somewhere.
Right. So I had to tell you this story. There was one time where I was helping a lady and her family in her home, and I had talked to her. I just talked to her on the phone, and I was explaining to her what we do and this and that. And this was probably 3 years ago, and and she was like, "Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you and seeing what you can do and help us with this whole whatever they had going on in their home and this
Yeah.
and that." And I said, "Okay." So I hung up the phone and I was talking with a friend of mine, and I got a text, and it was from the number that I just talked to this grandmother, and
Yeah.
it said on there, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Oh, okay." And I called her back and I said, "Was there something you needed?" And then she's like, "No." I said, "I just got a text from you." And she's like, "My phone's been sitting next to me. I'm watching TV right now." I'm
Oh.
like, I was like, "Oh, that's a first." And so so she was like, "Yeah." She's like, and this was a grandmother. I mean, and she was an older lady, so she wasn't really tech savvy, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
So I said, "I just got this message from this number," and she's like, "I didn't send you anything." And I
Oh.
was like, "Oh." And then come to find out later that the spirit that was there, the lady, it was an old lady. She was dressed in like 50s attire, and she
Right.
was, and there were other ones there, and then I got this whole story and this and that, but that text made sense to me after I had done the
Yeah.
investigation.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that was weird. I got a text from a spirit, which that was a first, and that was kind of crazy. So but I yeah, I still to this day I just thought that was because I knew it was there. It was really weird when I got the text, and then I kind of got this is odd. And so yeah, but that's probably one of my favorite stories to tell people that yeah, I got a test from a ghost, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, you hear other people that talk about, getting strange phone calls,
Yes. Yeah.
and I don't know if do you know anybody that's ever experienced anything like that?
I don't know anybody, no, but I've heard stories about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're um even with like the old rotary phones, remember those?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The old dial sort of thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the old rotary phones, and then there was a story of the lady that picked up a phone, and she heard like small voices or something like that, and she couldn't figure out what it was. This was years ago.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's just like I think the spirits are getting a little more updated with their tech tech
Yeah.
savviness. So I think that
Definitely.
they're coming into the light of the technology, so which is really
Yeah.
weird. But so how do you feel about like the paracons and stuff like that, the gatherings of all these paranormal people and have these events? And have you ever been to like a paracon or event?
No, I am due to go to a meeting like that in June, so that will be my first one where there'll be guest speakers
Okay.
talking about different things relevant to the paranormal, and then also afterwards there'll be an investigation in the evening and during the night at the building that it's being held in. So that will
Mhm.
be the first one, but I think it's a great idea to
Right. Right. Mhm.
meeting people, chatting with them, finding out about places they've been to, experiences they've had, equipment they use. It's
Mhm.
all to me, it's all fascinating.
Right. And I think as of late, I mean, some of these paracons and these events are coming. more. I mean, more efficient and more, places they're popping up in. And I mean, I see on Facebook people posting that this Paracon and that Paracon and this,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was, whoever, coined that phrase. I don't know how long they've been going on, but I remember seeing the Comic Con back in the
Yeah.
day with all the comic books and this and that. And then when
Yeah.
somebody just said, "Hey, why don't we have a Paracon?" Now everything's a con. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is. I mean, it's got everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one that I had interviewed somebody from what was it? The Unexplained Festival, I think it was called, and
Right.
it was over in the UK, and that was pretty cool. And I would love to be able to travel to go to a lot of these Paracons, but it's just,
Yeah.
I have one actually that I'm going to here and I live in Wisconsin, and I have an hour away at the Broadhead Manor at Spirits in the spring with Nick Sarlo and Shadow Hunters, and he put this on, and I can't wait, and I'm really excited. This is this Saturday, and it's just like, when you get together with like-minded people, it just makes things better. You know what I mean? You could share so much, and you could find out things you didn't know.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Brilliant.
So let's talk a little bit more about your investigations. I wanted to know if there's something where you were supposed to go to an investigation and Spirit said don't.
Okay, now that was actually quite recently. It was just a few weeks ago. I contacted a man about going on an investigation with him down a bunker, and it was actually to do some filming for a show for him. I believe I think there was going to be quite a few of us there, and my husband was all geared up to look after the kids and everything, and then something told me, no, don't go. So I contacted him and said, sorry, I can't make it. But I wanted to go, but then something told me it's not right, which is really strange, because I'll jump at the chance to go to an investigation.
It's weird that you say that, because I was kind of led to ask you that question.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, ask her about the time of I'm like, okay, so. Every once in a while with my guests, I do get that. Spirit kind of comes through and injects themselves. Yeah. So, so you ended up not going. Now, have you ever come across somebody who said, "Hey, let's go investigate this place," and then you're like, "Yeah, that's not a good idea"?
No. I think everywhere that someone suggested or we've been to, it's I'm
you're in it to win it. Yeah, I hear you.
That's the first time I've ever had the feeling of no, you shouldn't go.
Right.
So yeah, but I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've experienced that a couple times, and I was like actually going to get in the car and go, and kept hearing this, don't do it, and then when I talked to my buddy Josh, he was the camera guy on my paranormal team, I talked to him, and he said, that's weird that you say that, because I got the same feeling, and so sometimes when you trust your intuition.
Yes.
I just, it's like following your heart. You got to trust your intuition, and if it's something, and that's not to say that it's just for the paranormal. It can go with anything. I mean, if you get that message that you shouldn't go to this pub or go to this restaurant, or you know what I mean, just don't do it. I mean, there's a reason, and a lot of people who don't realize that, that they come across and say, oh yeah, I just kind of felt like I shouldn't go, but I went anyways, and then this happened. It's like, well, there was a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So But yeah, so do you have anything in the works, like coming up this weekend? Like you said, you were like gone every weekend for your investigations. That's
Yeah, this weekend I'm just at a local museum with another small team called Fifth Sense Paranormal. So we'll be working together, and I think it's there's another small group coming with us. I think it's the Haunted Hunts. I think. Oh, I'm not quite sure. I've not worked with them before. I can't remember. But Fifth Sense Paranormal will be there, and we'll work together just as a small group,
hmm
um,
hmm
and we'll check out this local museum.
hmm
And then the following week, I'm at another local museum in another town nearby,
Right,
which I have
right,
been to before.
right.
So that will be nice.
Yeah,
It's good energy there.
right. So, and speaking of museums, I wanted to ask you, like, not just museums, but places that you go. Have you ever experienced when you're not in that mode to do paranormal investigations or anything, but you are out and about with your family or something, and spirit injects themselves, or you sense something, or you see something, or how do you, how often do you have that happen?
Um, Quite frequently, not all the time. Quite frequently, I will go because I like to take my family to over here. We have like English Heritage and National Trust, which
hmm
they look after the big stately homes and the castles and those sort of places. So we have a membership to visit those places. So we quite often will go to castles and stately homes and things. And sometimes I will walk around and I'll feel things
hmm
and pick stuff up and
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
You're kind of
quite
expecting that, aren't you?
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
energy sometimes. Like I might walk into a room and just feel sad all of a sudden,
Right,
or
right.
get a pain or a headache, or you
hmm
get that
hmm
wicky feeling in your stomach when you know there's an energy in the room.
Right, right,
But I
right.
try
No.
pour on
Now
side.
is there a place, that you frequent with your family, a lot, like let's say there's a restaurant that you guys go to or something that more so, like you kind of learn something new every time you go, you know.
Yeah, I think possibly there's a local museum to us, Ramsey Rural Museum, and that is somewhere where that there is quite a dark energy in one area of the museum,
Mhm.
and every time I go there with my family, so it's just sort of not far up the road from us, and I do pick up lots of different things. I think some of the artifacts there um, have things attached to them. I do pick up quite a lot from there, different things, different feelings, names. I
Right.
feel quite connected with that building.
Well, then that's kind of like a reason that you're supposed to be there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like more or less that when you're admitted that light's emitted from you,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like the spirits that are there, or whatnot, are attracted to that. And then
yes,
there's the ones that want to distinguish that light.
yeah,
So I've also ran into that,
mm,
but yeah, like the place that I work, um, I'm supposed to be there, and I
yeah,
know that, and so there's different places. I mean, I can walk into a. I think it was the first time one of the first times I ever got pushed. I was when I was working, and I was on my lunch break, and I was in a Wendy's restaurant,
okay,
and I was standing in standing in line waiting to order my food for lunch, and I got this push in the back of my back, and
yeah,
I immediately saw this really short old lady. Like, I'm like, this lady's gonna get knocked out. I'm like, she's pushing me, and I turn around and nobody was there.
right,
And
okay,
then I was like, okay. Then come to find out later that there used to be on that property, because it was outside of town, and
yeah,
there was an old farm there, an old
okay,
farmhouse there. So I must have been in her space,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
know,
the way,
so yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that some of that residual energy, or even some of the even active energy,
yeah.
is now. Do you run into uh, the difference between the residual and the active, like hauntings? Do you run into a lot of residual?
Yeah, Some of the places we go to, we pick up on a lot of residual energy. So some of the sort of RAF bases we go to, excuse me, we've been to one in Norfolk, and you can sometimes hear airplane engines, which obviously there isn't any there now, but you will hear obviously sort of the residual energy sort of coming through, and hear music from dances they used to have. Often, there's an airbase not far from my house. In fact, one of my family members lives nearby, and they say that you can sometimes like hear 1940s music sort of being played, and it's at the sort of same time, same time of the evening, and I believe that's sort of the residual energy coming from there.
Right, and there's a lot of that too. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, especially when you were talking about the music, and I instantly got this 1940s scene of this, that, and the other thing. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's cool. So that doing this interview with you and talking with you and kind of connecting with you, I could see that you have a very strong center for mediumship, and I congratulate you on that, and I wish you the best for that. I mean, that's just I think that there's things that you're going to really come into more, and I'm happy for you that you're going to experience this. And kudos to you with 5 kids. That's hands down. I mean, that's so taking care of your family and taking care of your home, that's where it's at. I mean, his family's everything.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So, and it's great that you have that great support system.
Yes.
So, we're about out of time. So I want to thank my guest, Emily Waterson. Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Thank you.
And I've learned a lot more about you. And so just if you want, you can, let people know if you want to have any links or anything you want to share, or where people can find you or whatnot.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and it's Emily_paranormal. So just pop onto either one of those formats and check me out. Okay,
fantastic. Well, I want to thank everybody again for tuning in for this early show on Sunday, and this next episode will be the next episode that we're doing is tonight at 8:00 with Dan Norval from Expedition Entity. So that'll be a good show. So everybody tune in for that. I got a busy day today, so but again, like I said, I want to thank everybody. You can check this episode out on YouTube, the video, and on Facebook, and I will also be uploading this to all the places where you get your podcasts, including Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Apple, etc. I'm everywhere. So you can check us out there and give us a listen and listen to Emily. And I want to thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. See you guys until the next one. Bye.